Hello and welcome back. My name is Justina, and in today's video I'm going to talk about the sixth house in astrology. So here I'm continuing with the series about the planetary placements in each astrological house. If you want to watch the previous videos connected to this series, I will link them in the description box down below. So here the sixth house is connected to our everyday routine, duties, responsibilities, so the everyday mundane tasks. It also rules small pets, our work, our employment, co-workers, while the first house deals with our vitality, well-being. The sixth house states what undermines it, so it deals with any sicknesses, any illnesses or diseases we may have throughout life. All right, so without further ado, let's begin. All right, so let's start from the sun in the sixth house. So with the sun in the sixth house, you are probably exceptionally skillful at something, or you might have a couple of skills, something that you're really good at. And you might use these skills in the profession or work of your choice. And you might be of service to others. You might help others using these skills that you may have developed over years or throughout your life. Now, people with displacement are usually really devoted into what they do, and they would want to do it properly. They want to do it effectively, efficiently as well. And they feel like they are not performing to their best potential at their work or daily life. They will likely want to reevaluate it and see what isn't working and perhaps what needs to change, because they really want to be their best. So there's a tendency towards perfectionism with this placement, because the sixth house is connected to Virgo. Virgo is the ruler of the sixth house. So you might have some of these Virgo qualities to your personality, to your nature. So a tendency towards perfectionism, good analytical skills, but also great attention to detail. Now, if the sun is well aspected in your sixth house, this can bring kindness, love, compassion, especially in your relationships with people from your everyday life, but also in your work environment with your coworkers. However, if the sun is badly aspected, this can lead towards a tendency of being overly proud or arrogant, for instance. Now, how the sun will play out in your personality, in your life, in your chart, this strongly depends on the sign it is placed in. So, for instance, if your sun is in a fire sign, you need to watch out how you invest your energies, because you are likely to burn out easily if you put too much energy into what you're doing, overextend yourself even. You might burn out easily. So it's important to find time for recharging your energies, for getting some rest, and to find a balance between your mind and body, so that your mind and body are in harmony. But for instance, if the sun is placed in an air sign, this could lead to overly extending yourself in activities connected to mental stimulation, your intellect, where your intellect is used. So it's also important to find the time to rest, for your mind to rest, because this can result in a mental exhaustion. Now, when it comes to your health, pay attention to what you eat and to the warnings that your body gives you, especially when you eat certain foods, because if you neglect these warnings, this could lead to some long-term health issues. However, with this placement, major illnesses, major diseases only occur if someone really abuses their body and neglects their diet, neglects their well-being. Right, so this is what I've got for you about the sun. Let's move to the moon. All right, so let's look at the moon. So with the moon in the sixth house, you are probably a reliable employee, someone others can rely on, especially during difficult situations. So you might find yourself that people come to you, especially people from your everyday life, from your work. People come to you when they need some emotional support. You are health and diet conscious. And also you want your home, your everyday life to be really organized and tidy, your room or your house or your office space. So you really want this to be well balanced and well organized as well. Now with the moon in the sixth house, this is a changeable energy. So can be your everyday life, everyday routine. So even though you might like stability and be organized in general, you might find that things in your daily life change frequently. This could be, for example, if you have an office, if you work at an office as an employee, you might see that things change, like maybe your desk will be moved to a different side of the room, or perhaps you will move to a different department. So generally frequent changes, little changes, but also your daily schedule, daily routine might also change frequently. Perhaps you seek to establish a better routine continuously, and as a result of that you go through these little changes. Now, any conflict or especially with coworkers, people from your everyday life, or challenging situations will impact you deeply and emotionally, and it will affect your general emotional well-being, but also your moods. Your body is probably sensitive to certain foods and exercises, so here you might also gain weight and lose weight frequently, but there could be inconsistency when it comes to a stable weight. And when it comes to eating habits, you might also change your diets. You might change your eating habits several times throughout life. Now when it comes to your work, you might work at a profession where you are of service to others, when you help others. So oftentimes people with the moon in the 6th house become nurses, for instance. Your home might become your office one day, and you're generally emotionally involved with your coworkers. Now the moon represents the female, the feminine figure, so your mother could have been a hardworking person throughout your life that perhaps wasn't always available as a result of the excess of duties that she had to deal with on a daily basis. Right, so let's move to the next planet. Thank you very much. Mercury in the 6th house. So with Mercury here, you are probably a perfectionist, someone with good organizational and analytical skills, someone with great intellect, a curious and probing mind, but also someone who can get themselves out of any troubling situations or any bad habits that affect your health, that affect your well-being, your everyday routine duties. Now with Mercury here, since Mercury is connected to your mind, to your logical thinking, here this is also connected, this placement is also connected, especially if it forms any challenging aspects to other planets, to stress. So excess of stress could potentially lead to anxiety or physical illnesses. So relaxation is crucial, as your mental state is directly linked to your physical mental state. So learning how to deal with stressful situations, but also learning about stress reduction techniques will be very useful for people with Mercury in the 6th house. And you might actually find interest in learning about these things, because Mercury also rules books, reading, writing. So you might be writing or researching about good nutrition, good health. You might want to educate yourself how to lead a healthier life. Now, professions connected to this placement are often linked to being of service to others, using your skills, your mental skills, your mental abilities to help others to lead better, healthier lives. You might also find that you deal with lots of paperwork at your work or in your everyday life. So maybe office management, administration also is connected to this placement. Right, so let's move to the next planet. Thank you. Venus in the 6th house. So with this placement, you seek harmony and balance in your everyday life. So you want your everyday life to be well balanced and harmonious, but also your relationship with your co-workers, people from your work, from your everyday life. You avoid conflict. You seek kindness. You seek good relationships in general. Now, with Venus in the 6th house, you also want to be surrounded by beauty in your everyday life, at your work. So there's also a great desire for expressing yourself creatively at your work, and you might have some strong artistic skills. So you might be really exceptionally skilled at something that is connected to art, beauty, creativity. Now, with Venus in the 6th house, you might also crave sugary things. and you might enjoy cakes or just sweet things in general. So it's something to pay attention to, is overindulgence here with Venus in the 6th house. And Venus here also, people with Venus in the 6th house, oftentimes they really enjoy the simple pleasures of life and just enjoy life. They might not necessarily enjoy hard work or labor, but rather to find the beauty in everyday routine, everyday life. And here with Venus in the 6th house also. Now, if Venus opposes a planet in the 12th house, you might have a profession that is connected, or a job that is connected to helping others, especially those who are less fortunate, for example. However, something to pay attention to, if because here you really want to be kind, you are patient, you are pleasant to others. Pay attention, because you might attract people into your life who want to take advantage of you because of your kindness. But you might have the inner strength to say no, but you might not give this impression as a result of this beautiful aura surrounded by you, and as a result of you wanting to have these harmonious and beautiful relationships with others. So something to really keep an eye on is perhaps setting boundaries, clear boundaries with others, especially if you see that someone might want to take advantage of you. And you might see that friends also always want something from you here with this placement, but this is especially connected if Venus aspects any of your planets in the 11th house, or the ruler of your 11th house of friendships, group activities. With Venus here, you also have good negotiation and diplomacy skills. So that's something really, really useful. Right, so let's move to the next planet. Thank you very much. Mars in the 6th house. So with Mars here, you are someone who could be a perfectionist, because here again, the 6th house is connected to Virgo. So you might have of the Virgo qualities connected to your nature. So you might be a perfectionist. You might have good attention to detail, but you might also be a workaholic, because you invest all your energies in what you do. So you're really devoted into what you do, into the service that you provide to others, and generally into your work. So it's really important to not to burn out, because you can burn out easily if you don't find the time to rest, to recharge your energies. So really important with this placement is to find the balance between your work life and your health, because the health might be affected if you overextend yourself without realizing it. Now, with Mars in the 6th house, people with this placement are very good leaders, or they work really well independently, and they work better independently rather than in groups. And they are good at being their own boss, or when they have their own business, or they can work at under very small or minimal supervision. They can get easily irritated or upset if they work in an unpleasant environment, when, for example, others are rude or impulsive. Then this anger or dynamic energy that comes with Mars can be really stimulated during these times, especially if Mars is also afflicted here in the 6th house. Now, with Mars in the 6th house, there's also a tendency towards becoming a workaholic, or developing some compulsive routines or dietary habits. So it's something to really pay attention to, because this can, in the long term, this could really affect your health. But usually people with this placement are really strong, and when they get sick or they feel unwell, they really have the inner strength, motivation, drive to get better as soon as possible. So they can really put all their energies into improving their health, into fighting the virus, fighting the bacteria that's affecting them, their well-being. Now, when it comes to food choices or generally eating habits, something to pay attention to as well is overeating, or perhaps eating too much of foods that are spicy or contain caffeine, because this might also affect the health in the long term. Right, so let's move to the next planet. Thank you very much. Jupiter in the 6th house. So with Jupiter in the 6th house, this usually brings good fortune when it comes to workspace, when it comes to relationship with others, co-workers, and so on. So with Jupiter in the 6th house, you are someone who wants to be free, independent, you need lots of space, you might work abroad as well at some point in your life. Jupiter is connected to anything that's foreign, and you might have a job that's connected to people that come from foreign countries, cultures, backgrounds to yours. Now with this placement, you need freedom, you want independence, I've just mentioned before, but also you want your space, so you need plenty of space. So ideally an open office or a large desk, and generally you feel best when you have space to work. You don't want to be limited or restricted at your place of work, or you might have your own business when where you set your own hours and your own rules. Now with Jupiter in the 6th house, there could be a tendency towards overindulgence, overextending yourself. So perhaps this is connected to also diet. And there's often a tendency towards weight gain as a result of poor food choices or food choices that are high in fats. So here, pay attention to your diet. And it's important to know your limits here with this placement, because it's very easy to kind of lose yourself with the optimism and the opportunities that come with Jupiter in the 6th house. But it's really important to know your limits and to set the boundaries. Right, so thank you very much, and let's move to the next planet. Saturn in the 6th house. So with this placement, this is usually someone who needs a well-structured routine daily life. And in order to function effectively. Now, Saturn in the 6th house wants to be needed and useful. So here it's really important to be realistic about your daily goals, daily life, your work, and whatever you expect from your coworkers. Because if you are not, and if you just complain about this, nothing will change. So it's really important to be realistic and make the necessary changes in order to find fulfillment in the long term. Now, people with Saturn in the 6th house also seek recognition for their talents, their skills. However, this recognition might not come immediately, because Saturn brings delays. Sometimes things need to be well developed, or something else needs to be achieved in order to get that recognition that is desired. So here, people with Saturn in the 6th house will be exceptionally skilled at something, and they may use it in their work or profession of their choice. However, it might only come later in life when they will be fully recognized for their talents, for their skills. So remaining patient, consistent here with this placement is really important, without taking shortcuts, without giving up, because then the recognition, the full recognition will come. Saturn rules reality, so here being realistic as well about your expectations, being realistic about your health and well-being and your diet, because here with Saturn there is often also a tendency and towards perhaps very rigid dietary habits, and you might actually go for the same meals, the same food choices, and this could affect your health, your vitality, your well-being in the long term, because you might not be fully receiving the right nutrition that you need. So here with Saturn in the 6th house, it's really important to keep an eye on your health and your eating habits in order to maintain long-term health. Because strict diets that only are about eating certain foods and certain group foods could only lead to some long-term health issues. So here, just to summarize, with Saturn in the 6th house, this is about being consistent, patient, and without taking shortcuts, because the recognition, the reward, the good things will come from Saturn's placement here. However, this might take some time, because Saturn may delay some aspects of your life, of your everyday life, of your work life, of your employment, because perhaps something else, some other skills, something else needs to be achieved before that recognition is received. However, if you work consistently and fairly, then you will obtain these rewards at some stage in your life, even if it's slightly delayed. And obviously, it's also really important to look after your health and develop healthy eating habits and regular exercise routine. Right, so on this note, let's move to the next planet. Uranus in the 6th house. So with this placement, you are someone of a very unique nature. So you don't like repetition or routine. You don't like when 2 days are the same. So you might have your own unique routine, everyday routine, your own unique exercise regime as well. And generally, you are not really someone who enjoys a 9-to-5 job. You need constant stimulation. So you need a job that will offer this stimulation, that will offer this excitement, because otherwise you will get bored very easily. You might burn out as well. So people with displacement are often good at freelancing, or they become self-employed. They might be their own bosses, or they find jobs that offer this continuous stimulation and even adrenaline. When it comes to eating habits, they might have their own unique diets or unusual exercise regimes. I'm not sure if I already mentioned that, but here, also with Uranus in the 6th house, this placement can be pretty someone who is really active, someone who is constantly moving and doing things. So it's kind of maybe important to watch out your caffeine intake, because you might get stressed or tense easily, and if you drink too much caffeine, your adrenaline could really increase, and this could really affect your health in the long term. It's also really important because you might be overly excited at your work, for instance. So it's really important to find a balance between your work life and your home life, but also leave your work at work. And when you come home, find the time to relax, to recharge. Otherwise, you might feel really overwhelmed with all the stimulation that you might experience throughout the day, and then you might not be able to relax if you bring all of this excitement home. So really important to kind of separate these two spheres, and so that your body and your mind can really recharge and relax. Right, so on this, also 6th house, you might also have some unusual pets, tarantulas or rats, for instance. And on this note, let's move to the next planet. Neptune in the 6th house. So with this placement, you might be naturally compassionate, empathetic. You might be good at listening to others, and you might want to be of service to others when it comes to resolving other people's problems, helping them to get out of some troubling situations. So this is a good placement for people who work in social services, for instance. However, it's also really important to set the boundaries here, because you might absorb other people's energies very easily if you don't. And then when you come home, you might feel really drained. So set the boundaries and protect your energies while helping others as well at the same time. Now, when it comes to Neptune in the 6th house, you might also find it difficult to establish a certain a set routine, a structure, a well-structured daily routine, because here Neptune could bring some confusion, delusion here of displacement. When it comes to diagnosis from the doctors, and here I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it well, so sorry about this if I'm not, but you might be misdiagnosed with displacement, because you might have certain symptoms, but the doctor might not be sure what treatment would be right to help you to get out of any sicknesses that you might be experiencing. So it's really important, if this is the case, to seek second opinion, because this could be really helpful. With Neptune in the 6th house, you might be also attracted to natural remedies. And when it comes to co-workers, relationship with co-workers, clear communication is really important, because there is a tendency towards feeling or being misunderstood by others. So in your everyday life, in your work environment, so it's really important to communicate clearly as possible and directly as well. Now, with Neptune in the 6th house, you might also feel unsure sometimes, or where is it that you're heading with your life, or where is it that you want to be in a year's time when it comes to your work, when it comes to your life in general. So if this is the case, you might find it useful to keep a journal, or perhaps write things down, make a plan of your goals, of your wishes. You might find it useful to put it on the paper and make a plan of it. Right, and on this note, thank you very much, and let's move to the final planet. Pluto in the 6th house. So with Pluto in the 6th house, this placement is connected to inner desire, inner urge to help others, to be of service to others, help others to transform their lives in a positive way. Now with Pluto in the 6th house, you might also transform your health routine, your diet, your daily life in a big way, at least once in your life. You might be also pretty obsessed with what you eat, with how you eat, with nutrition. You might be really concerned about your health, about your vitality. Now with Pluto in the 6th house, something to watch out for is a tendency towards compulsive or obsessive behavioral patterns, especially the ones connected to your health. And sometimes if Pluto is badly aspected, this could lead to overeating or eating the wrong foods, like junk food or smoking, for instance. Now this placement is also connected to workaholism. So you might be really obsessed about a task, about the responsibility at work, and you might work more than you should. And this could result in you feeling burnout, and you feeling drained or exhausted. So it's really important to watch out for these tendencies because they could affect your health in the long term if you do it continuously, if you neglect your health and put all your energies into work. So find a healthy balance between your work life and your health and your diet, if possible, if you feel like you've been neglecting it. So generally with this placement, you want to do something that is useful. You want to do something that is useful to others as well. And so you might, whatever you do, you might have a very influential effect on others, especially at your workspace, at your work environment. All right, so thank you. All right, so we reached the final planet for this video. Thank you very much for your attention. I hope you enjoyed this presentation. The next video will be about the 10th house, and this will be in January 2022. So stay tuned, and until the next time.